Hi book friends, welcome back to my channel. I am Jen. Let's talk about what I read in the month of October. I'm going to start with the lowest rated and work my way up to the highest rated. Coming in at a solid 2.5 stars is Fearful by Lauren Roberts. This is the novella that was recently released after the trilogy, the Fearless trilogy. I have never read a book, whether it be a full-length book or a novella, that was as pointless as this was. We were going through some of the events that happened in the last book from a different POV. The very end, there were a little bit of tidbits that I enjoyed, and that's what got it the 2.5 star rating. But overall, completely skipped this book. Then I read The Baby Dragon Cafe on KU. I rated this a 3 stars. I do think that this was a very cute palate cleanser. I enjoyed it while I was reading it. I enjoyed it enough that I do want to read book number 2 eventually. It was cozy, it was romantic, but that's really all it had going for it, other than baby dragons. I didn't really get any warm fuzzies. I was just thankful for a quick read in the middle of a whole bunch of long fantasy books. Also 3 stars. I listened to this on audio. I, who have never known men. I do know that this is a translated work, and I have seen a lot of people raving about this on social media over the last couple of years. I am trying to read down my physical TBR as much as I can before the end of the year, and this book was really short, so I decided to pick it up. And it was really, really interesting. We follow 39 women who live somewhere, in a bunker, in a prison, somewhere. There's no windows. They can't escape. There's guards outside. They don't know where they're at. They don't know why they're there. So they just sort of have to make this life and make the best life that they can. And then a little girl comes into the bunker or the prison, and she does not remember life outside of this situation. So the dynamics between her and these other women is a lot different. Then something happens where the women get to explore outside of this bunker. And they have all of these ideas about where they are and why they're there. But these ideas are never explored. The ending was a pretty big letdown. The idea, the concept was great. I would actually love to read a book with the same premise that was longer and a little bit more fleshed out. Then I picked up on KU Hot for Slayer. This is by Ali Hazelwood, and it's a little novella in the, I think it's called Sexy Scary or Scary Sexy or something. There's 6 little romance, spooky romance novellas by 6 different romance authors. This one follows a vampire and a vampire hunter. And of course it's a romance, so they fall in love. Enemies to lovers in the most extreme way. For novella, I really, really liked it. I did rate it a 3.5 stars because, again, I would love to see this idea fleshed out in a full-length novel, and I think Ali Hazelwood could crush it. On audio, I listened to Green Lights, which is the memoir of Matthew McConaughey. This was another book I had on my physical TBR, and because it was sort of on the shorter side, I decided to go with it for the month of October so that I could, get my numbers down a little bit. And I highly recommend listening to this over reading it physically because Matthew McConaughey himself narrates it, and first of all, I just love his voice, but his insight and his wisdom and his humor really, really shine through in this book. And one thing that I loved about this book is that he showed the good sides of himself and the bad sides of himself, but he only showed the bad sides of himself. He didn't talk about any of his relationships in Hollywood. He didn't drag anybody's name through the mud. And I really, really appreciated that. By far, one of the best memoirs I've ever read. Next on the list is Zodiac Academy, the first one. This has been on my list for a very long time. And then, oddly enough, my boyfriend started listening to the books on graphic audio, and he really, really liked them. And I was in the car with him as he listened to some of them. So actually, we took a road trip, and I listened to the whole second book with him in the car before I had even read the first book. So he had to fill me in a little bit. But I liked it good enough that I decided I was going to go back to the beginning and just read them physically. And it was a very quick read. I know that they get longer, but I feel like even the really thick books that are coming out now, like the 7th and the 8th book, are really big. There's not a lot of words on each page, so I think that I will be able to read through them pretty quick. I think he's on book like 4 or 5, so my goal is to catch up to him in the next couple of months. For a book that is not written very well and has a lot of cringy moments, I liked it a lot. That's just proof that a book doesn't have to be amazingly written to be good and to be entertaining. In this book, we follow 2 sisters, they're twins, Tori and Darcy. They're getting into a lot of trouble over here in the mortal world. They just turned 18, so they were kicked out of the foster system. They just basically are lost. Then Sexy Man comes and says, hey, you're actually Fae princesses, so come to this school, and if you can graduate, you'll get an inheritance, and you will possibly inherit the throne. And of course, there's other people who want to inherit the throne, so there's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of enemies. So if that's hard for you to read, if you don't like bully romance, I would skip this. I personally don't mind bully romance, and there was a scene or 2 at the end of the book that really were hard to read. They really, really pissed me off. Then I read Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang. This is a fictional horror book. I think that's what it's like slated as. I didn't really get the horror aspect other than the fact that there was a lot of body gore, a lot of talk about dead people and their fluids. Personally, I don't like horror books because I don't find them scary, and I kind of don't understand the point of them if they're not scary. But if you like horror and you like gross body things, then you probably really, really like this book. I rated it a 4 stars. It wasn't a bad book. It was an interesting read. This is about Cora Zhang, and she lives in the United States, and her ancestry is from China. And then COVID hits, and of course COVID originated in China. So this follows her treatment by people that she knows and also strangers on the street who will literally just spit in her face and call her a bat eater. Then we start getting into some supernatural things with ghosts and Chinese culture and superstitions. And by the end of the book, I was really rooting for this main character, Cora. And because I liked her so much, I think that is one reason that my star rating went up to a 4. I would recommend it, especially around Halloween time, but it was definitely not a 5-star read. I also read on audio through my library, Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is the 2nd book in the, I don't know what the series is called, the Part of Your World series or something. Part of Your World was the 1st book, and now we're following a different character in Yours Truly. And I did rate this a 4.5. I loved this book. This is the 2nd book by Abby Jimenez that I've read, and I've loved everything. So the two for 2. She's knocked it out of the park twice. This follows a lot of trauma, a lot of relationship trauma, specifically that our female main character went through. There is a fake dating trope, but one reason why I really connected with this book was because there was a lot of talk and there was a very strong storyline over organ donation, kidney transplants, and that is something that has happened to me personally in my family. So those parts did make me emotional. The reason that I made it a 4.5 stars instead of a 5-star was because there were, from both sides, the female main character and the male main character, there was so much miscommunication because they thought that the other person was thinking something or feeling a certain way. So instead of just coming out and being honest and saying, how do you feel about this? They just assumed what the other person was feeling or thinking. And that was very, very frustrating. But of course, it all worked out in the end. Can't wait to read more Abby Jimenez. I had 3 5-star reads in the month of October. Glow of the Everflame. I do have the physical copy of this, but I listened to this on audio via Spotify. One of my new favorite romantasy books. The 1st book was 5 stars. The 2nd book was 5 stars. I need to read the 3rd book, and then I don't know when the 4th book comes out, but this book is so good. I have heard a lot of mixed reviews on social media over the Kindred Curse saga. If you want my 2 cents, which I guess you do because this is why you're watching the video, I love this book. It's easy to listen to on audio. The main male character is like top-notch book boyfriend material. There are characters in here that you just love to love so much, they just touch your heart. And then there are some characters that you just love to hate. The emotions when I listen to this book are definitely all over the board. Planning to pick up book 3 in November. Then I did a reread. I am rereading one of my favorite series. It is also one of my boyfriend's favorite series. We recommend it to everybody, and that is the Arc of the Scythe series by Neil Shusterman. And so I did read the second book in October, 5 stars. This book takes such a different turn from the first book. It's almost like they're two completely separate stories. So much science fiction is brought into this book, and at the end, all these little threads sort of come together, and the last sentence of this book, I cannot think of another book that has the last sentence of the book that so strongly makes me want to pick up the third book right away. Just that last sentence really drove it home. If you have not read the Arc of the Scythe series, I highly, highly recommend it. My last 5-star of the month, and also the last book that I'm going to talk about, is one of my new favorite romanticises, other than Spark of the Everflame. And that's Direbound. This I read on KU, and then I liked it so much that I needed a shelf trophy, so I went out and bought it physically. My In Real Life book club picked this as their book to read. Otherwise, I probably would not have read it when I did. I flew through this book. This is like Fourth Wing, except for direwolves. And there are a lot of similarities to Fourth Wing, but not so strongly that it's like a ripoff. I didn't feel like I was reading a ripoff of Fourth Wing. The other thing that I loved about this book is sprinkled throughout, there were so many shocking moments. So many moments where my mouth was just hanging open. This book made me purchase something that I have been putting off for a really, really long time. I kept falling asleep at night while I was reading this book on Kindle because I just couldn't get comfortable. Sorry about the lighting. The sun keeps going behind clouds. But I just couldn't get comfortable. I kept falling asleep because I was laying on my side. So I did end up buying one of those Kindle holders that you clip onto the table next to your bed. And it literally puts the Kindle right here in front of your face. So you can just like lay down and read it. And it came with the page turner. So I could cozy up under my blanket, wrap myself in my blanket with my arms underneath it and everything. And then just click the little clicker to turn the page. That helped me read this book a lot faster than it would have taken me if I didn't have that contraption. It makes me feel like I'm living in the world of WALL-E, but at this point in my life, I'm okay with that. If you have stuck around this long, I would love for you to say something in the comments, whether that's a hello, tell me what books you read in October, or you can just leave a pumpkin emoji for Halloween. I would appreciate it if you would like this video, subscribe to my channel. In the description, you can also follow me on all of my other social medias. And until next time, happy reading.